Greetings, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Critical Podcast. I'm your host, Jimmy Good, and welcome to a very special, kind of interesting new show we're doing this week because we're talking about Summer Games Fest, but we're also going to be talking about, because at the time of this recording, some things that are on the horizon, things we hope to see, some dreams, some feelings before E3 really kicks off. And because Summer Games Fest came up last year because E3 wasn't around, it is still here again this year. We're going to be talking about that, all the things that were revealed, and kind of go through it pretty quickly because you guys are, people who are listening to this, you guys are all so busy. You just want that news. You want it fast. And maybe for once, I can be kind of timely with this show. So anyway, we're going to get into it here. This is according to IGN, and I'm putting this in the kind of the way in which they have shown off the actual the premieres of these games. So we're just going to go up the list from the bottom to the top, baby. Oh yeah. So all right, starting off here at Summer Games Fest was all digital event that took place over a little over an hour and a half today, hosted by Jeff Keighley, and a bunch of different people showed up. Celebrities, game developers, musicians were all there or kind of doing a digital version of something here or there. So let's start down here at the bottom. A little more Back 4 Blood gameplay for anybody here who's a Left 4 Dead fan, such as myself. It's always nice to see the game. They're showing off a new enemy type. But besides that, we didn't really get too much more. They talked a little bit about the fact that they're going to be doing some kind of pre-tests before launching in October. Interesting, cool stuff. Love to see the game. I was a really big Left 4 Dead and Left 4 Dead 2 fan, so it's nice to see that game kind of come back. Even though I'm also a pretty big fan of Evolve. If anybody's seen the videos in the past, I just I miss Evolve a little bit. But that's okay. It's all right. Back 4 Blood. I'm really looking forward to trying out myself. Next one on the list, Evil Dead. Oh my gosh. So this one, actually, we got a good look at Evil Dead, the game. And as I have been told, there are Evil Dead games that came out prior to this. So it's kind of an interesting name for this. However, it looks to be a third-person action game, four-player kind of co-op, and then maybe, as someone pointed out to me, because it looks like you can take over as Ash or as a bunch of the other kind of infamous or famous people, depending on how you look at it, from the Evil Dead series to play as to fight off the Evil Dead. You can actually take over and be one of the bad guys, the zombies yourself or the demon, and kind of take over other zombies and kind of go after the players. I get a little bit of Dead by Daylight or Friday the 13th vibes from this one. And the combat actually looked pretty gory, a little bit more slow-paced, and it didn't look like you're mowing down hordes. It looks like you're kind of fighting a couple at a time. A little bit different for a game like this, but it was nice to hear Bruce Campbell narrating. For anybody who doesn't know Bruce Campbell, he's obviously he played Ash back in the Evil Dead, but he also has been in things like Burn Notice and then the Spider-Man, like the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies, and he was actually the narrator for the Spider-Man 2 video game. He's excellent. He's super good. So it was nice to hear Bruce Campbell's voice. I'm like, Bruce is nice. Giancarlo Esposito dropped by for a little Far Cry 6 talk. That guy's so cool, and it was nice to see an interview with him because usually when I think of him from like Breaking Bad or now more recently The Mandalorian, and he's always playing like these angry, very kind of evil people. But it was nice to see him very jovial and nice and kind in his interview. He's such an interesting guy. But he talked a little bit about what is coming, or his performance for Far Cry 6 and where he drew inspiration from, and talking like that. And it was really cool. It was cool to see him. So that was just a little something. Wasn't like a huge world premiere or anything, but they did talk about it a little. So I was like, oh, well, they brought it up here on IGN, so you know what? Well, I'm going to bring it up too. I won't go through every little thing. I will mention these things as quickly as I can, though, just because, like I said, there's so much here, and this episode could balloon out really quickly. Nier Automata 2B is going to be in Fall Guys as a skin. I thought that was kind of cute. Every time I watch Fall Guys, it makes me think of MXC. I was like, oh, that's cute. I was like, that's nice to see. I was like, all right. Also, we got the Endless Dungeon gameplay. We got some reveal gameplay from that. I was like, okay, for some reason, when I see Dungeon, I always think of Gungeon now, and I'm like, that's a different thing. Don't think about that. But yeah, some little bit of gameplay there for people who are excited about that one. Monster Hunter Stories 2 Wings of Ruin, which apparently I've been told the Monster Hunter Stories games are actually turn-based games, and this is the second trailer I've seen for this, and I believe there is a gameplay trailer, but this was not one. This is another story trailer. And I was like, I still don't even know what this game is, but it looks really pretty. It's got a kind of Wind Waker aesthetic to it that I appreciate a heck of a lot. And I don't know if I would try it out, but it's coming to Switch. Man, some Monster Hunter stuff coming to Switch. I was like, hey, that's nice. And also I like Rathalos, and I saw my boy Nergigante was showing up for a second, and I was like, oh, Nergigante is looking good. It's almost tempting for me to get the game just to see Nergigante animated that way. Just looks like such a cozy, wonderful game. If anybody out there has played Monster Hunter Stories like 1, let me know, unless that's like a region-locked game or something. I was like, we also got Planet of Lana. We got to see a little bit of that as well. Kind of a smaller game, really, really pretty. Like, what did they say? It was like a gouache painting brought to life or something like that. It's really, really, really striking to me. Now, depending on who you are, maybe it won't be as pretty to you, but it was a smaller game, and it was kind of cool to see it get the chance to get shown off the way it did. And I always love these press conferences or these kind of events like this where you do get the chance, even as a small team or a smaller group, to have your game shown off in a huge way when most people probably wouldn't if you dropped a trailer online. I think that's really cool. As far as some other new stuff goes, Overwatch 2 had their new game director come out. It's not Jeff Kaplan anymore. I'll miss you, Jeff. Showed off a little bit of the new looks for Baptiste, I always say that wrong, and Sombra. You know, it's fine. I was kind of hoping for like a little gameplay or something else there, because he basically just showed off these 2 new skins, more or less. It's just interesting to me how they're kind of revamping and changing all the looks a little bit, or tweaking them for these characters, when there's going to be a lot of skins and stuff too that later on I don't know if in Overwatch, I don't know how many people are running with the regular skin anymore. So I thought that's an interesting choice to come out here and show that. Not that it's bad. I was just kind of hoping to see a little more story something or other. I thought that would have been kind of cool, but maybe Blizzard saving that for later on. Could totally see it. Would not be surprised. We got to talk about it for just a second. Fast and Furious vehicles in Rocket League. Now, that makes sense to me. Makes perfect sense. I understand there's a lot of cross-promotional synergy with some of these games. We were talking about Fall Guys there earlier. No Fortnite at this show tonight or today, which was kind of surprising, to be honest with you guys. But Fast and Furious makes sense. I'm kind of surprised we didn't see that new Fast and Furious game that's coming up be promoted here, because we got that a while ago for the Video Game Awards. But oh well, that's okay. That's all right. We can always hope for next time. This was one that I thought was interesting, because I've always had my friends, I've heard them talk about this one in particular, but the Tales series. I have never really played through the Tales games myself, but I've gotten to try them out just a little bit here and there. Now Tales of Arise is coming out, and it looked pretty different from the combat and the gameplay to what I have seen in the past, and I kind of confirmed it with somebody out there. Team, thank you for telling me. He was like, yeah, this does look a bit different than the past Tales games. Looks pretty cool. I think, if you're a fan of this, you're kind of already in. Like, you're just like, I don't really need to see any more. Again, I'm quoting Team here, a friend of mine, Team. He's like, I don't really need to see any more. I'm ready to go. And I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. So, new Tales of Rise. It looks pretty. It looks like a flashy JRPG. A little, Genshin Impact-ish, which also we got a little bit of that today, too. Some new stuff coming to that game. But I was like, okay, yeah. A lot of these JRPGs, there's some similarities, and I mean that in the best possible way. Flashy, bright, cool, colorful. Next one, a game I've been waiting for a long time, just in general, but a PvP vampire game. So Vampire the Masquerade Blood Hunt. Vampire Battle Royale. I'm not a huge Battle Royale fan, but like the idea of vampires fighting each other, I've always thought would make for such a great video game, or vampires versus werewolves or something like that. And finally, we're really getting that, and we only got like a CG trailer for it, so we haven't seen it in action. But just imagine Call of Duty, but then people on top of it have abilities more than the operators do. Like, you can teleport around and do different things, and that might be just a really insane battle royale to watch. But I was interested in it because I was like, oh, hey, it's vampires. It's a little bit different. I just kind of appreciate something different, especially when it comes to the battle royale stuff like that. We did get to see this announcement for, it's called the Anacrusis. It's kind of a 4-person, first-person shooter, a co-op kind of survival game set on a spaceship. You play one of these kind of 4 survivors on this. It's kind of like a spaceship, if you remember from WALL-E. It's like one of those types of things where it's like this big kind of crazy massive one, and you're fighting a bunch of different aliens. Looks like it might be early days for it still from some of the footage we saw, but I do respect the fact that we actually saw gameplay for it. It wasn't just a really pretty CG trailer and they kind of just went on from there. Yeah, Anna Crucis. There seems to be a lot of games coming out like that soon, like Back 4 Blood, Dark Tide, things like that, or even though it's a little bit different because it's third person, but Alien Fire Teams. I always love these co-op shooter things. I think they're great. It's super dependent on a team, though. Like, you got to get a group together, and if you don't have that, you can have issues. Yeah. They announced that Eleven from Stranger Things, along with Hopper, the Demigorgon, and the Mind Flayer will all be coming to Smite. I was kind of amazed by that. Apparently, they've also done team up with the Avatar, or The Last Airbender, I think, which I was like, oh, really interesting. A little bit different. I was like, okay, that's totally fine. I don't have a problem with it. I was just kind of amazed. I was like, oh yeah, Stranger Things. I haven't seen anything Stranger Things for a while, so it's kind of like, oh hey, it's 11. I remember 11. She's got all that telekinesis and all that blood pouring out of her nose. That's not good. 11, you got to get that checked out. Next one that came up for a lot of people might be exciting. Shuei Yoshida himself dropped by, digitally, and he said, I'm a big Souls fan, and I'm excited to talk about this, but Salt and Sanctuary's sequel, Salt and Sacrifice, is coming up. So if you like Souls and you like 2D games, then you probably like Salt and Sanctuary. I was getting it confused with that other one. Well, actually, there's probably a few now, but they showed off Salt and Sacrifice coming. That'll be on PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5 for now, but maybe one day it'll be on something else. And it's got co-op, which that's also nice. I saw somebody wielding a scythe. Always happy to see a scythe wielder. Always makes me happy. Yeah, I appreciate that. We got a release date for Sable, September 23rd of this year. I'm still a little hesitant to talk about release dates for most of these things because a lot of them are like early 2022 and all of that, and because this year has been crazy, it's kind of hard to, I feel bad for any developer who has to commit to a date right now. But even more so just because of the fact that who knows. But hopefully that'll completely stick and it will be great. So there's going to be more information about that coming up soon. But for any Sable fans out there, just know you can be excited about that. This one I didn't know. It's called Lost Ark. It's from Korea. It's an MMO. I was looking at it and I was like, oh, because it was like, I think they introduced it as a massively multiplayer online role-playing game. I was like, oh, what? Lost Ark, not to be confused with Ark Survival Evolved. I think that's what that was, right? Not Combat Evolved, that's Halo. But that's coming here in the fall for any of our MMO fans out there. This next one kind of surprised me a little bit because I enjoyed the first one, and I feel bad because I never fully finished it. But that is Jurassic World Evolution and the sequel that's coming out. So I played Jurassic World Evolution. For people who don't know what that game is, it's basically Zoo Tycoon, but Jurassic Park, and it looks really nice, plays really well. The biggest issues you typically have are were in the past were storms and people ruining your power or trying to steal information and stuff. So that's how the game kept it interesting, because your electric fences would go down and then T-Rex would break out and start eating visitors, all that fun stuff. But I really enjoyed that game, and I'm interested to see where this one goes because it seems like there's a chance that it's taking place after the events of Jurassic World and potentially after the events of Fallen Kingdom. And if people have seen those films, that it might be a weird way to, the world might be in a weird state. So I'm interested how a park would survive. So I'm kind of putting money down that it might be more this happened after Jurassic World and in between that and Jurassic Fallen Kingdom and Dominion. So yeah, I really like that game. If you like these kind of zoo simulators and seeing these animals, and they really do a good job of showing them off. They look fantastic. They sound great. And it's just fun to do. It's it can be a little harrowing and a little stressful sometimes, but it's a fun game. So if you're into any of those types of games, or even games like City Skylines, it's got a little bit of that in there. Not as intense as City Skylines, though. Not nearly as intense. There's much to that game. We did get the announcement that we're getting a director's cut of Death Stranding. There was a Metal Gear Solid kind of joke within that too, with Norman Reedus' character. I'm not sure. I was kind of trying to theorize today with the Legionnaires who were watching that maybe this was something that like Sony had said like, hey, we need to get this game out, so some of these scenes have to be cut, or maybe it was a budget thing, maybe it was a time thing on Kojima's end and Kojima Productions. I'm not sure. But if you like Death Stranding and you want more of it and more weirdness, it's coming your way. To PS5, I was like, okay, good for you. Death Stranding fans, unite. This one might be the one I'm more excited about than anything else, which is kind of weird, but I have a special spot in my heart for Metal Slug. I have not played through all of the games. I played them a little bit, but there's something about the look, the feel of those games, just really fun, easygoing. Well, Metal Slug is coming back after a long, long time, but it's coming back as a tactics-based game. So that's kind of like XCOM or Gears Tactics. So very different than what you're used to with Metal Gear. Or Metal Slug, sorry. But I think it looks great. It's really charming, really interesting. I looked into it. It looks like there might be a little bit of like a progression system, unlocking different weapons and things like that. It's going to be different. I think there might be, there's replayability because I think it does change from time to time. Or like if you go back to certain levels, they are different the next time, or the setup is different. It's like, oh, that's really interesting, really cool. And again, for people who aren't familiar with Metal Slug, it's a 2D side scroller back in the day where you basically were like crazy, like you're just running and gunning and shooting and blowing up tons of people and tanks and all this stuff. I think it's kind of a cool idea. I'm a big fan of tactics games. Like I've told people in the past, I'm not super great at tactics games, but I really enjoy them. I loved Gears and the Valkyria Chronicles games. And also, why haven't more people made like a Valkyria Chronicles style games? Like what's going on with that? I mean, so good. But anyway, Metal Slug Tactics came out of nowhere, and I was like, oh my gosh, this looks really charming. And actually, Team, once again, he kind of correctly called it before the thing was actually announced. He's like, oh, is it Metal Slug Tactics? I'm like, yeah, it is. So if you see tactics behind the name of something, more often than not, that means it's a grid-based tactical RPG, if you will. But I'm really looking forward to that. And also, a shout out to all the people who animated those really cool cutscenes. Like, that's not how the game's going to look all the time, but man, it looked really cool. Or that trailer, I was like, dang, that looks great. It was wonderful. I'm so happy to see that. Another big announcement that came out, Ashley Birch herself was out there talking to Jeff in person, the voice of Aloy, and a ton of other people, but she plays Tiny Tina, and she will be the lead, kind of one of the lead voices in Tiny Tina's Wonderland, along with a whole, like, a handful of well-known comedians. This is from the Borderlands developer Gearbox. It sounds like, from what we've seen, and we didn't see much, we just got like a little bit of trailer, that it's going to be kind of Borderlands-esque, but set in a Dungeons and Dragons style world. So you'll have spell casting. It looks like guns are still there. I'm sure it's going to be very funny or very jokey, trying to be very humorous, so keep that in mind as well. I want to see more of this. I think it's interesting, kind of compelling. It seems like as more time goes on, more and more people are into the kind of the fantasy genre, and I think that's pretty cool. And I'm curious to see what they do with this, because, you know, these games can be very, very jokey. I liked Borderlands 3, how it played. I wasn't a huge fan of the barrage of humor, but we'll see that's like. And yeah, it was cool to see Ashley Birch out there. It was interesting to have her come out and talk for people, and it was just, I was like, oh, good for her. Good on you, Ashley. That's fantastic. The biggest thing I do need to mention here today, everybody's losing their minds over it, but that is the final, actually, I shouldn't say the final, but finally, the gameplay reveal of Elden Ring. And for people who don't know what that is, it's a spiritual successor to the Souls franchise. It's being made by From Software and Bandai Namco. I'll be honest with you guys. You know, it looks all right. They finally showed off the horse. There's a horse you can ride on. There's mounted combat, stuff like that. I'm curious to see if you can stay on the horse after you get hit once or if you get knocked off. A lot of open world games have that where you get knocked off like right as the first time you get hit. But this looks, and again, this is just from a gameplay reveal trailer, so there's a lot of kind of assumptions or speculations being made on my part here. Looks a little more open world than we've seen in like Dark Souls. Might not be as linear because in those games, There's typically paths that you can go on. It looks like a big sprawling world, and it is, but you can't just kind of go anywhere. If there's like a hill, you can't always just like climb any hill that you see or whatever else like that. It seems like they're pushing that a little bit more. And this is also in conjunction with George R.R. Martin from the Game of Thrones. So I'm curious to see, as people correctly put in the chat. Again, I think this is team again. This is like the team show today. He said like he'll just be writing item descriptions, because that's kind of what these games are. For me, from my perspective, I know people are losing their minds. They're so excited about this because people, if you love Souls, you love it with your whole heart. I have now played through Dark Souls 1 and 2, Bloodborne, so I have a little bit of an opinion, I could say. But to me, it's just kind of more Souls stuff. So if you like Souls, great. And if you don't, like me, it's kind of doesn't do a lot for you. It's just more kind of vague, weird stuff and just weird designed things. And I'm really curious. It did look to me a little more Sekiro-esque, only because they focused on kind of one character playable, or it seemed like, and I don't know if that was a class or something like that, because it didn't look like he was switching between weapons or whomever was using the weapons like that were very different, like Sekiro kind of, you just had your katana. That's probably going to be very different. It sounds like this game is going to allow you to go back to kind of building up your own class your own way. But again, more punishing gameplay, a vague story, and if that's what you're into, I'm happy for you. I'm just personally not interested. So I'm like the only person on my Twitter right now who's just kind of like, yeah, but I don't want to bring other people down. If I see Splinter Cell, I'll be losing my mind. So you know what? We've all got our things, right? But that's kind of quickly there within about 20 minutes what happened at Summer Games Fest here today. That is kind of glossing over a lot of different things that they also showed on top of that, like musical performances and other things like that. But I just want to say shout out to Jeff Keighley and the team. It's got to be hard to put these things together every year, and doing an hour and a half kind of live show with these kind of pre-recorded things and put it all together, and it kind of works pretty smoothly. Good on them. That's impressive. I just think, as someone who's kind of trying to learn more about production, I'm just like, wow, there's a lot of moving parts here. So yeah, I will say this though, and I don't think Jeff will probably ever see this, but yeah, he said before the show there weren't going to be any Muppets. Still was hoping for any Muppet at all. So Jeff, as far as I'm concerned, you're on notice, buddy. No, I love the Muppets. He loves the Muppets. We all can love the Muppets together. Leave your favorite Muppet down in the comments below. We'll see if anybody actually does that. Anywho, that is Summer Games Fest for now. Like I said, there's probably going to be way more information coming out about all these games, down the line, or some things there'll be corrections or clarifications. So if you hear me talk about any of this stuff, I am recording this the day that it came out. So I'm going to try to get this out early to kind of share it with you guys. Also, I did want to take a few moments to talk about some of the things that are still coming up. Now, the things that I'm most excited about, Ubisoft, Forward. Capcom's got a presentation. Obviously, Microsoft and Bethesda, but we talked about that last week, so if you want to check that out, please do. And then Nintendo is also coming up. There are some other things in there, like Devolver, and some other ones that I'm probably going to miss. I'm so sorry. There's just so many shows. There's so many shows, which is great. There's just more for us, to appreciate. But I just want to talk about those things for a few seconds here. And then, when after this week's episode, I'll come back and we'll kind of do a wrap up of all the big things that kind of came up. Maybe I'll kind of do like a top 10 of like, these are the ones that are kind of the biggest deals to me, or deals to, it seems like most people are still talking about. And I'm sure Elden Ring will be on that list for many people. But the last thing I want to say about Summer Games Fest, I think that this show did not take away, or probably will not take away from, the other press events that we will be getting, which is great, because while this show I think was still really good, it wasn't like, oh, we saw something here that is going to, like, we can't see that again for the first time, somewhere else. Like Jeff didn't show off Starfield, or something like that. It's like Elden Ring was enough, So that's good to see, because you still want to watch these other press conferences and still be excited at the potential, as opposed to it all being presented before you like this. So anyway, we're moving on here. I just want to talk briefly about these things. Ubisoft, I think there is just not a great chance we're going to see any Assassin's Creed, because Valhalla came out last year. You never know, though. I looked it up. Assassin's Creed Valhalla, apparently it's like their fastest selling Assassin's Creed game of all time. Didn't know that. Kind of amazing. Like, good on them. That's amazing. But For me, I really do think Beyond Good and Evil 2 might show up. I'm going to say these things and watch, they'll have tweeted out early big. Beyond Good and Evil 2 will not be shown this year. That, Just Dance, maybe some other interesting collaboration with Nintendo or Microsoft. Probably going to happen at some point. Maybe a Trials thing, if anybody, my Trials fans out there. The one thing I would love to see, though, as we talked about last week, I don't care if it's at Microsoft, but Ubisoft, I don't care. Splinter Cell. Please, guys, anything, like, not anything Splinter Cell. I don't want anything Splinter Cell. I just want, like, you know, an actual Splinter Cell game, because it seems like Sam Fisher is going into every other game except for his own franchise. That would be nice to see. I really don't think we'll see anything Ghost Recon related. Maybe some sort of content thing for Breakpoint. Maybe, but that's ways off. Or I don't know if that would happen now. Skull and Bones has been delayed, unfortunately. Again, I feel so bad because I wanted to play Skull and Bones, and now it's just like, nope, you can't. I miss those. I miss having a ship in Assassin's Creed. I really do. After playing Valhalla, I'm like, I've got my long ship, but it's like, it's not the same. Like, I'm not going warring in that the same way. I just miss the cannons. Not the Vikings had cannons, but it'd be kind of cool if they did. Anyway, yeah, Ubisoft, I'm still excited to see, and they could announce another IP. They have in the past announced a bunch of different things. I don't know if we would ever get a For Honor 2. I think For Honor is doing pretty well. I wouldn't be surprised also to get some Rainbow Six Siege information or more content information from them. Wouldn't be surprised at all. Capcom, though, on the other hand, this is the time, guys. If you're not going to do Monster Hunter World 2, which I know so many people are like, Jimmy, we got Monster Hunter Stories 2 coming up. I'll probably show plenty of that stuff. I just want a title drop. Just give me something. Monster Hunter World 2, Monster Hunter Cosmos, Monster Hunter Universe. I don't care. Just give me that. Just something. Also, this would be the time for Dino Crisis. Guys, if you're going to do it, you're right now they're in the sweet spot of they're like making like Resident Evil 8, but they also make like Resident Evil 2 and 3 and stuff. This would be the time to pop into Dino Crisis. That would be so cool, right? I would just be excited for Dino Crisis fans and Dino fans in general. More dinosaur games. I want to play as a dinosaur. I want to play as Blue. That's a Jurassic World thing. Anyway, the people who made Maneater should make a Velociraptor game. That's all I'm trying to say. And then also the people who made Alien Isolation make a Jurassic Park game. That's all that I'm trying to say. Okay? But yeah, Capcom could talk about almost anything right now. I don't think we're still probably a ways out from like another Devil May Cry or anything like that, but I always want to keep it on the table, in the cards, just in case, because you never ever know, because Devil May Cry 5 a few years ago broke my brain. I was like, what? So cool. Yeah, and then Nintendo. I think the big thing that would maybe eclipse some of these other big announcements from Starfield, seeing Starfield, Halo Infinite, Elden Ring, would be Breath of the Wild 2 information. I really do think we're going to see something here. We'll see some things like classic dungeons. I think we'll see more open world stuff, like to kind of show people that there is still the open world. But I really think Breath of the Wild 2 is going to be one of those that people are just like, oh, baby, did you see that? Did you see the Breath of the Wild 2 information? And they have a Treehouse afterwards. Treehouse Live afterwards. There we go. That I do like those. Those are always fun. I love just having like the game being played and talking to the developers about it, just showing it. I think that's really nice to do. It's just kind of like, here it is. Wonderful. Again, though, like I said, I'm probably missing a ton of different things here, but I just kind of wanted to do like a kind of a catch-all, just kind of talk about the things that I'm the most excited about, most interested in. And yeah, no Sony stuff for now, but maybe at the end of the month, we're going to get a state of play. They did just show off that Horizon Forbidden West gameplay, which I made a full video of. So if you want to talk about Horizon, some Sony stuff, there's stuff on the channel for you there. But besides that, it's, we're getting into it, guys. This is the time, baby. And hopefully next week I can come on here and be like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited about this or that. I hope to be half as excited about something as some of the people who are listening to this today are about some of the games that are coming up in the future. Oh my gosh, so good. All right, so to kind of break it up a little bit, though, we're going to move into the next segment of the show, which I like to call, which you like to call, which we all like to call, Time Killers. That's right, baby. Ooh, Time Killers. What am I killing time with? Games I've been playing, movies and TV shows I've been watching. Playing more Assassin's Creed Valhalla. nothing much more to report on that. Still enjoying it. About over 24 hours in, 26, 27 hours in, something. Actually, maybe 30 now. Let's see, what else? Oh, a little bit of Star Wars Squadrons. Was throwing down with a friend of the show. He's been on a couple times. Zora Caviar, Caden, and another guy. We played as the Empire every time, won every match. Was so good. Had a match where I didn't die. So as we say in the Empire, we are going home to mama. I love playing as the Empire. We actually even were playing with a rando who was like level 355 or something, 335, super high level, and he was talking to us, and he loved the RP that I was doing for the Empire, and I was like, well, thank you. I appreciate that. So someone who played that game a lot, he was like, yep, yeah, you guys take care, keep on flying, and I was like, oh my gosh. So great. So yeah, I had some fun in Star Wars Squadrons, trying to beat the campaign. I have like 2 or 3 missions left. I would just like to kind of wrap that up before the Game Pass expires. And I actually played, speaking of Game Pass, thanks to the J-Strom. The J-Strom and I streamed and played through all of Gears 5 Hive Busters. About a 2.5 hour to 3 hour campaign, depending. Played through it. Really pretty. Just shows off the Series X and plays super well. No hitches or glitches at all. I'm so excited for the future of Gears 6. And just Gears of War in general. I don't know if we're going to see any Gears 6 coming up on Microsoft here. Probably not. Maybe a tease. But I would love to see that. Or some more Gears Tactics stuff. Because I love Gears of War. I always will. Just holds a special place in my heart. Even though I do miss the old Locust. Yeah, I don't like fighting DBs. I don't like fighting robots in those games. I just don't know how you get the chainsaw through the metal. But I guess you get through the clavicle of the bad guys. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. As far as watching goes, finished up the Owl House, and now I'm watching the incredibly great Jurassic World Camp Cretaceous. I think it's in its 3rd season, I think, something like that. It's fantastic. If you like Jurassic Park at all, please check this show out. I think a lot of people who do like Jurassic Park and are a little bit older might say, like, yeah, this show is just for kids because it's got a rating of like Y7. But it is really good. It's compelling. It's respectful and appreciative of the actual dinosaurs themselves. And I was thinking about it because I was like, oh man, would people be like, oh, these kids would be so dead. But if you go back to the original Jurassic Park, a lot of that movie there's a good chunk of that movie that are their kids just trying to escape terrifying creatures. So it's nice. It kind of plays back into that, and just it's very appreciative of the source material. So if you like Jurassic anything, Jurassic Park stuff, Jurassic World, please go check that show out. It might be after the original Jurassic Park, some of my favorite Jurassic stuff that exists at all. It is that good. Besides the Jurassic World, the ride that is over in Universal Studios Hollywood, go check out the vlogs, which I've been working on that. I had that was a while ago now, but the new Disney vlogs, they're coming up. So if you guys like vlogs at all, like the actual theme parks, me hanging out there with my sister Katie, please check those out. Thank you. Now we get to move into my favorite segment of the show, which is community feedback and questions. Yeah. Oh my goodness. I love when you guys write in. It just makes me so happy. So I asked our Legionnaires, I wanted hot takes, I wanted favorite showings, anything from Summer Games Fest. Mecha Wrecker writes in with all of this. He says, Elden Ring, am I right, looks very From Software in the best way possible. I was also really excited to see that Metal Slug Tactics game and the announcement of Salt and Sacrifice. I loved Salt and Sanctuary. That teaser for the Death Stranding Director's Cut was also amazing. Such a good goof ripping on Metal Gear with the cardboard box. Loved it. Well, there you go, Mecha. There's some things in there I agree with, some things I don't, but that's okay. These are your comments. Jason says, Elden Ring looks amazing, and I haven't even played a From game, but I can't deny it. It looks great. I personally am hyped for Back 4 Blood, and am intrigued by Evil Dead. It looks fun. And he also wanted to say, I just want to know how improved Halo is going to look. That's the hope. Caden, at the time of this, he says he hasn't had the chance to watch the Game Fest yet. That's right, Caden. By the time you're hearing this, you probably did. So, Caden, thanks for just telling us that. Mecha writes in with this question. He says, I'm curious if there was anything you were expecting to see today that you didn't. I don't think so. I think Elden Ring was the one that everybody wanted. I don't know if I expected to see anything. And that's kind of the fun of Summer Games Fest, is that you don't really know what to expect. Because going into Microsoft or Sony in the past, or even Nintendo, you can kind of get a feel for like what they could announce. But with this, it was just such a nebulous black hole of stuff that you're like, it could be anything. But I am appreciative that the show, while it was commercialized in some ways, was not overly so, and I really liked that. It was kind of just, it moved right along, it cooked. It reminds me of how the Game Awards is done if you took out the awards. Like that's what was today, basically. Which is not a bad thing. It's just cool. It's just quick. And also he's hosting the Gamescom opening kind of night thing. And so we remember that for last year, and it was like 2 hours long. And I was like, oh my gosh, there's so much information. So there's always stuff on the horizon as far as Jeff Keighley's concerned. I was trying to think of something, if there was anything I was expecting to see. Maybe not. Just always hoping for things, you know. But you can always hope for Darksiders 4 to be a return to form. But I don't know. Genesis, and now they're doing that League of Legends game. Who knows, man? I don't even know. Either way, I appreciate you guys being here today. If you guys ever have a question or a topic for a show coming up in the future, like I said, next week is going to be kind of an E3 recap, or kind of the press conference recap, and try to get as much information in there as I possibly can. But if you want to write in with a question or a topic, all you have to do is tweet the hashtag Critical Podcast, and you can tweet it at me, which is at GoCritical over on Twitter, or at me personally. I'm at JimmyGood013. Also, hit us up in the Discord. We have a Discord. Post it in the podcast questions anytime, even if it's not gaming related, if it's movie related, TV show related, theme park related, anything to entertainment. That's what I'm about, baby. And if you want to support us, just consider checking out my Twitch channel. I've been streaming over there like twice a week. We've got a nice little Teespring store if you want to check out some merchandise as well, even though I believe this was from Spreadshirt back in the day, but now it's on Teespring. Just disclaimer. But we also have Instagram. We have a TikTok over there as well, so they're all at Go Critical. Check it out. I would appreciate that. And a huge, huge thank you to our patrons. Thank you guys for supporting us financially, or for supporting me financially. Basically, if you don't know this, Critical Reviews is run by me. Pretty much alone, and it has been for years. So I appreciate any and all support. Katie does do the TikTok stuff, so there's that. So I can't say it's all just me, but yeah. So if you like me, if you want to see more of me and want to support the channel, just consider checking that out. But really, you never have to donate any money. If we didn't make any money on Patreon, that'd be fine. I want to make stuff and entertain people, and that might be shifting in the next couple of months. I will tell all of you guys what my plans are, but I hope to do this stuff as much as I can for as long as I can. I appreciate you listening today. If you want to help, just share this, or let me know if you liked this episode. Leave a comment or tweet at me or something, anything. That'd be great to hear. But anyway, thank you for hanging out today. And until next time, just remember to adapt and overcome. Bye-bye.